Hello, my fellow Pokken Tournament players. Welcome back to the Jugum Cinematic Universe. This time we are going to be talking about Pokken and what it would have been like if it was how people thought it was going to be originally. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you can probably read the title or see the thumbnail of this video. We are going to be talking about when Pokken was thought to only have fighting type Pokemon and if it was going to have type advantage in it. First off, when it comes to the fighting type, we only have 4 of them. We only have Blaziken, Lucario, Machamp, and Croagunk. But even before all that, when Pokken was first surfacing for the first time, fans only thought Pokemon of the fighting type would be able to join it. Now, of course, there has to be a reason for this. It can't just come out of nowhere. People can't just be like, oh, fighting types in a fighting game? It's not like all the Pokemon fight anyway in the main series, you know? But there is a reason why they came to this conclusion. When Pokken was first hinted at in the public, they were shown a tiny bit of footage. Now, I'm not able to find that footage anymore because I don't know if it was deleted online or anything, but I was able to find an image of what it was. Basically, it was just a brief overview of, I think it's like Neo City right here, daytime, with Lucario and Blaziken fighting. Only those 2 characters, you know, the fighting types. And then later on, the first look of Pokken Tournament, we see Lucario and Machamp. These are, of course, the only 2 shown in this trailer. This is the first official announcement for it. And since conveniently, by the way, can I just say this trailer looks absolutely phenomenal? It is funny how they made this game look like it was going to play like Tekken with like the phasing and stuff, because they don't have like the ring around or have like even the guards up, like the shield like bits. Now, if you recall, the first 3 I mentioned to you for fighting types were Blaziken, Lucario, and Machamp. Those were the only fighting types at base roster Pokken Wii U, until they added Croagunk in DX. So, when nothing else was known about the game, you can totally understand why people would thought, oh yeah, there's only fighting types in this game. And of course, this also led to a lot of people making speculation rosters of who they want to be in because of this. You have people like Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, those were like the main 2, because you know, Gen 1, they're the like premier, like, oh, I'm the original fighting types, besides like Machamp. Of course, with Primeape too, kind of a bit. This did all lead to eventually people asking Harada over and over again if only fighting types will be in, where he had to confirm, no, it will not be only fighting types. Kind of made it a little awkward though when you only revealed only fighting types throughout this entire thing. But yeah, I kind of hit it big time when it came to all this stuff, even on the Reddit, everywhere, YouTube. It was actually, when you think about it though, why would they just limit themselves to fighting types? I already mentioned, all Pokemon fight. It just seems like the connection was like, oh yeah, only showed fighting types. And you know, fighting game, fighting type, that means it has to only be fighting types. But when you look at this, like, all the Pokemon who are fighting types, you just kind of like limit yourself unnecessarily, because we have, like I mentioned, Pokemon like Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee. When you compare that to someone who could have been like Suicune, even though people get upset about Suicune being a quadruped, it makes it more unique. And of course, the water really helps you. I mean, of course, you have Pokemon like Poliwrath, who do control water. But if you're going to pick someone like Poliwrath over Suicune just because Poliwrath is part fighting type, when it would probably only use mostly water to differentiate itself, at that point, you might as well just go out there and not even use like all fighting types. And for those who don't know, Pokken Tournament released when Gen 6 was being made. So that means no Gen 7 Pokemon, no Gen 8, no regional variants for that matter would have been available for this game until DX, where they added Decidueye and a plethora of supports for those Pokemon from Alola. But for this, if you limit yourself to this, like, let's see, that would be, so I just finished counting all the available fully evolved fighting types. If you were to just consider those as part of your roster, only fully evolved, because I don't see any reason to do pre-evolved forms unless they are popular enough, which I don't think any of these Pokemon are, you would have only 27, and you would limit yourself for no reason other than the fact that it's a fighting game. It has to have only fighting Pokemon. And sure, some of these Pokemon do have elements. I already mentioned Poliwrath, but also Medicham is a psychic Pokemon. But if you're going to pick those Pokemon over the fan favorites, like stuff like Pikachu, stuff like Mewtwo, if you want your psychic type to be in the game, just pick Medicham, it's a psychic, you know, or Charizard for that matter. You would not only be limiting yourself, but also not including those fan favorites. And I don't think, if they were to make this fully fighting types, I feel like the only exception they would do is Pikachu, and then people would be probably really mad at that, because they're like, okay, why did Pikachu get to be in, but none of my other fan favorites? Though I say that for only the company deciding if they want a Pokemon that isn't a fighting type in the game. What fans wanted, though, was a lot of fighting types, and then Ursaring to be in the game because, you know, the bear guy, Tekken has bear characters, so they thought this would be a perfect fit. But in my opinion, I'm glad they kind of didn't do that. I feel like Ursaring, if they did want to give him like a million different types of moves, does he even learn a lot of types of moves? Yeah, he does, because, you know, normal types learn a lot, but in that case, you might as well have just added in any other Pokemon. Not to say Ursaring wouldn't be cool, but it would have felt like the one weird exception. And at that point, if you're making exceptions like this, like with Pikachu, you might as well just be adding any other Pokemon from a different type. It's an interesting topic, but then again, in hindsight, it feels like with all these fan favorites and how varied they are for like zoners. Oh yeah, and that's another thing in this game. Who would be a zoner for like a fighting type? Like you need like a couple of zoners. That's just a general fighting game playstyle. We wouldn't have Gardevoir, we wouldn't have Chandelure, and for that matter, we wouldn't have any like wacky Pokemon either because all of them are basically kind of humanoid. It would just be like a bunch of rushdown characters and grapplers, and I would not appreciate that. I would just want to run away. I am very much glad that they did decide to go for all the types. Though they have been adding a lot of new, recent, like very cool fighting types that they could do, like Rapalock, Surfetch. Like imagine this guy's range. Imagine this guy's massive freaking range with this giant sword. Marth. Hello, Marth. Would you like to join our traditional fighting game? All around pretty interesting, but you know what's even more interesting? When you consider the fact that people, to a much lesser degree, may have thought that type advantage would be in this game, and I can't really blame them at all for this. That's kind of Pokemon's thing. I can say firsthand, also another hindsight situation, probably even more so, if you were going to think type advantage was going to be in this game, like, how'd you even think about that without it being completely unbalanced? And for an example, using my own main, he is literally surrounded by Pokemon who would beat him in a tight matchup. Not even including everyone else, such as Weavile, Charizard, Braixen, Scizor, and probably anyone else if you want to even count type resistance like Aegislash. Even if you were to think, okay, let's make it a minimum of, say, a 1.1 boost or a 1.2 boost, which is way lower than what it actually is in the main games, being a 2 times boost for how much extra damage you take from type effectiveness. Think of this combo done on Sceptile, who has not the greatest health. Like, it's not bad, but it's also not like higher than like 600 or whatever like some characters are. So imagine all this, but it's a 1.1 times boost or a 1.2 times boost. That would be absolutely terrifying, and that wasn't even the full combo or even the wall splat bonus that you get from phase shifting. It would be super unbalanced. It would mean that you would have to stick with kind of one type because you don't want one type to be weaker than the other, which the grass and ice types have a lot of weaknesses. Oh my gosh, let me even see Weavile here real quick. Speaking of Weavile being weak to fighting types, which is a 4 times weakness, so if you want to even count that, it'd be super awful. Let's see, fairy types, fighting types, fire types. And then there's Mewtwo, who is weak to like 2 of the best Pokemon in the game, being Aegislash and Decidueye, top 3 who are ghost types, so that's even more awkward. Finally, I think Empoleon might be one of the best in this game because he's only weak to the fighting types and ground types. I'm not too sure. I would not know how to calculate this. Maybe I'll do a tier list on it someday. But yeah, people were definitely confused about this if it would have type advantage. But I think at some point Harada did say, no, that would make it unbalanced, which is what I have been saying this entire time. But also, Gengar, being the first ghost type in the game, really showed, oh right, there would be no type advantage because you totally forgot about type immunities. I would be immune to fighting and normal type moves. Dark types would be immune to psychic moves. That would be absolutely terrible for this game. I am so glad that they decided not to do that and just to do the basic, you know, just fighting stuff, you know, not care about type advantage. And you would also have to factor in like supports and stuff too, for that matter too. So I guess you could be like, oh, I'm weak to water, I'll just pick Snivy and it'll be a one-time use grassing, but hey, at least I have a brief moment of winning the matchup. The only way I can see them implementing type advantage in this game is if it was a team-based game, not like our team battle, because for our team battle where we can't switch Pokemon, it would still just be a matter of who picked the right type advantage first. So if you were to pick like Mewtwo versus Weavile, whoever picked Weavile is going to win, because even if they try to counterpick with someone like Machamp, and they could have someone in their team that would beat fighting types, such as Gardevoir, or even a ghost type who's immune to it. And there's 4 ghost types, so that'd be very fun for them to deal with. Man, fighting types would be absolutely terrible in this meta. I want only fighting types, adds 1 ghost type to the equation. Well, dang, I guess I can't play the game anymore. Sidetracked, but you see my point. So if we had a team-based game, something like, you know, Dragon Ball FighterZ or Marvel, we would have the ability to switch Pokemon on command and be able to be like, oh, I'm fighting a Machamp. I guess I could switch into my Gardevoir, my pocket Gardevoir, to take care of the Machamp. And it would have to be a 3v3 in my opinion, because I feel like even for 2v2, you take down 1 Pokemon, then you just go to the Pokemon you've been saving to take care of the other Pokemon that they have that is a type disadvantage, and then you just win anyway. So it feels like it doesn't change too much in that case. But for a 3v3, I can see being very like mind gamey of like how I want to position my Pokemon and how I want them to be put into the game and how it deals with type effectiveness. But at the same time, how Pokemon does type effectiveness seems very complicated either way. So I feel like even that would be too much for the brain to handle for like high-level competitive games. Because for Pokemon being an RPG that's turn-based, you at least have time to think about your actions. For a fighting game, you have to do it all on the fly or just be able to strategize like many steps ahead. I'm not saying you can't think a few steps ahead in the mainline Pokemon games, but something like this would be a definitely higher degree of how much you had to think ahead for all your things, especially if you're commanding 3 Pokemon all at once as opposed to just a 1v1 like it is in the main games. Besides doubles for VGC. As we all know, 3 is in fact bigger than 2. I think all around for both these topics, it would be kind of interesting for just seeing what the game would have been like, but I definitely do prefer what we got right here. And for those of you who were interested in being like, oh, I just wanted only fighting types or type advantage, I hope I explained to you in a very thorough manner why they didn't do that, because even though it could be interesting, it may also be pretty bland for fighting types or very broken for type advantage. So anyway, hope you all have a fantastic day. I'll see you guys next time for more Pokemon content. And yeah, please support the upcoming tournaments happening soon like NEC and Frosty Faustings. I'm going over there personally, but please do watch the event if you have the chance. See you guys next time. Should also mention for those that don't know that this game did release. I stopped myself right there. For those who don't know, Pokemon Tournament. It did eventually release someday.